Welcome to the Soul-u-tions Podcast, everyone. I'm your host, Tara Simkins, and today, this is a very special episode. It is particularly curated for the mothers of daughters. Whether your daughter is 3, 13, or 18 and just getting ready to go off to college in August, there is a season coming for you that almost no one has warned you about. It's called Sorority Recruitment. And I want to be honest with you about something. When I sat down to plan this conversation, I realized I wasn't researching just for the girls who are going to be going through Rush, but I was researching for parents like you and me, because the women I coach in the Soul-u-tions Labs are all watching their daughters walk into a process that is more competitive, more emotionally loaded, and more soul exposing than almost any of us went through. And what no one has truly prepared you for is that you are going through this experience while your nest is emptying, while your friendships are quietly shifting, and while your parents are aging. All of this while you are still learning the very skills that you're trying to teach your daughters. So by the end of this episode, I hope all of the parents listening will feel a little bit of relief. You're not crazy for feeling this much. More equipped, you will have a plan and an expert to follow. And hopefully you'll feel seen, that someone is finally naming all the things that you're carrying. So let me introduce you to our expert today. I am bringing you the woman who literally wrote the book on this. Her name is Trisha Addicks. She is America's leading sorority rush coach. She founded It's All Greek to Me in 2017. And her brand new book, The Rush Bible, published by Simon & Schuster, is coming out on the same day that this podcast episode is dropping, May the 12th. The Rush Bible has been described as a straight-talking, warm, prescriptive guide for any panicked young woman or, let's get real, her mom. So listen to the introduction, and I'll introduce you to Trish on the other side.
Einstein said, "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them." Most everyone in the world is solving their problems the wrong way. Our problems come from our thinking, and we can solve them with our thinking. So whether you're at your lowest, just trying to grow, or whether you are trying to sustain growth over your lifetime, join us as we push the boundaries of our current thinking and redefine how we find solutions.
The hope and the strength and the love and the smiles and the laughter of friends and family. Add it up, you'll find no limit to the possibility.
Trisha. I just called you Trish.
That's okay.
Trisha, welcome to the Soul-u-tions Podcast. I'm so grateful to have you on the show today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I teared up when you were reading the introduction. You just have this like calming presence. It's really amazing. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, I have really been on my wish list for 2 or 3 years, and I learned about you. I am the mother of boys, and I think you're the mother of all boys.
I am. 2 boys, yes.
Yeah, and I have 3. And so I didn't have a daughter to go through sorority rush. And so none of the prep work, didn't pay any attention to any of the stuff that's going on, and just assumed it was just like the kind of rush we went through back in the day. And then I started getting these calls from friends who were devastated because their daughters had shown up for rush. They had also assumed that it was kind of the same thing, that they knew what to expect, and they learned the hard way that things have really, really changed. And during those times, I called both my sister and my sister-in-law, and your name was the name that everybody had on the top of their tongue. They're like, oh my gosh, Trisha Addicks, Trisha Addicks, Trisha Addicks. Please, like, I'm like, may I give my friends her name? And they're like, yes, we've checked with her. You can give her their name. And you have walked a number of my friends through what was really a devastating time for them. And I just want to say thank you so much. And that's really why I usually don't think about it until August. And so It's taken me a couple of years to realize it needed some lead time. And it just so happens that has worked out perfectly because your book is out today as of this episode, dropping, the Rush Bible, and it's fabulous. And I want to thank you again for sending me a copy so that I could read it before today.
Of course.
Yeah. For y'all listening, it's The Rush Bible, Secrets to Crush Sorority Recruitment and Find Your Forever Greek Home. So before I ask you anything, I kind of already went through all of that, just shared how I got to know you. But what I wanted to ask you is, this book is born out of course, your work in the world, but that work is born out of your own sorority rush experience. And you share that in the book. And I would love it if you would share it with our listeners, if we could start with that.
Of course. So I am from Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm not going to give you all the whole origin story, but I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina, and I went to the University of Georgia in 1986, and I went through Rush and did not get a bid. I did not get into a sorority, and it was crushing to me. My roommate was also from Charlotte, and she did get in a sorority, and she was wonderful to me. But the reality is she was very busy, and she had chapter meetings, and she had socials and all the things. And I did not have any of that. And it was, as you described your friends, it was devastating to me, devastating. And I went back through Rush my sophomore year, and I got into my first choice, Chi Omega, but those feelings never left me. I was like, I just don't want anybody else to experience this. And unfortunately, like you said, it's gotten so much more competitive that you really, really do need to have someone like me or have the book, or at least intentionally prepare for the process.
Yeah. And I really love this because for everybody, truly, if you have someone graduating from high school, please go get the book. If you forgot to get your mom who has a daughter who's going, to college for the first time, please get her a late Mother's Day book, because you really do need this. And in the book and in all of your social media, what I love is this just refrain that is intentionally prepare. This is something that you need to intentionally prepare for. It isn't just the Bama Rush like, oh, David Yurman.
Yeah, no, it's not at all.
It's not about that at all.
It's really not. It's not. And it is not, young people today, they work so hard to get into college, and you have all the extracurricular and all the things that they do. But then somehow they drop the ball, not all of them, but they drop the ball on something that's so important, which is finding your people in college. I think that's the most important thing. And you can't expect to work so hard to get into college and then just show up and be like, yo, I'm going to be in a sorority. You just can't do it. You can't do it.
You can't. And truly, they haven't experienced anything like that because they've, progressed through school. And unless they've moved a bunch of times, like they were generally with the same people, or they've been doing the same activities for a while. And so they really are. And they have feelings too, like, oh my gosh, they may be deeply homesick. And They really do need to find their people. And it comes so rushed upon you, especially at the schools that have rush before classes start or at the same time classes start. You're not prepared for all of that at one time. at all. Okay, so you just talked about this this event when you went through Rush and not getting the bid. And the word you use in the book is trauma, like it was really traumatic for you. And I wanted to know, why is it important for you to describe it as trauma?
Because, I mean, and they're all different levels of trauma, but it was a time in my life when I was leaving home for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
I was leaving my friends. This was before Snapchat. And, I talked to my friends at Thanksgiving, from high school, the people that I'd been with. I went to a school that was K through 12. And so I was really alone and isolated, and in a time when I really needed to have people in this transition time. So it was a trauma. I was rejected right off the bat when I got to Georgia. And that knocked me for a huge loop.
Well, I really appreciate you using the word trauma, because there are capital T traumas and there are little t traumas. Mm-hmm. And it really is true. We didn't have Snapchat. I share all the time with my kids or the younger people I coach. I'm like, we had a hall phone that you had to share. You called with a calling card on a Sunday in one little tiny time slot that was the, least expensive time to call. And you had to really soothe yourself. It was lonely in between those calls while you're trying to figure things out. And so I do think for girls today and the way Rush works today, it's traumatic in a different sense. Yes, they do have Snapchat. They do have, all of these things on social media. And so they can stay in contact, but it also means they see a lot of things. Mm-hmm. So when something happens to you also are traumatized by the same feelings of rejection and being left out. And so I just think the fact that you are the person who is doing the guidance, and you have turned that traumatic experience into something that is really life-giving and life-saving for others. I also find that, and I'm saying this to the mothers who are listening too, as something hopeful and some evidence of resilience building, and evidence of that while you had a defining moment, that you have made something really significant out of it.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
That. Yeah. All right. So when we've talked about like this being for the moms in large part, and talk to me about the mothers and your experience with mothers and what is actually happening for them during their daughter's rush. And maybe there are a couple of different types of experiences of the mothers that you can share.
Just a couple.
Just a couple.
Just a few. Well, first I want to say that I know where this comes from. I am a mom. I would do anything for my children. And I understand, like you said in the beginning, that made me tear up, that this is a huge transition for moms also. And for whatever reason, your daughter might have struggled in high school, or even if she didn't, you just want to make sure that they are going to thrive in college. That said, the moms usually straight up lose their minds during rush week. It's just, I get a lot of flowers at the end because there's a lot of venting to me, which I get it. I understand it. But it's important to remember that this isn't going to define your daughter. And it's important to remember that this is her experience and not yours. And I say that with the most amount of love and respect and trust for moms, but moms can really, really derail the situation.
I have seen that too. I mean, it's well-intentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, very well
Well,
intentioned.
not always well intentioned.
We'll get into some of that too, but you know, so when you get that panicked phone call, let's say from a mom who Rush is not going well for, tell me what you see in those calls. Like, what did people try that didn't work? Or what did they not try? Or what did they expect that didn't happen?
So my favorite line, and I don't know where I got this, is disappointment comes from expectations.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go in expecting something, if you go in expecting to be in a certain house or in a certain group of houses, that's when disappointment can often happen. And so as for the moms, putting those expectations on your daughter is a recipe for disaster.
It's like, so when they come in, sounds like some of the things that they've come in with were big expectations,
Right.
or maybe perhaps legacy expectations.
Right.
What are some of the things that you can obviously see that they didn't do? Did they have some assumptions, or they?
Are you
they
talking
didn't-
about the people going through Rush or the moms?
Yeah, the moms.
So the biggest thing that I see with moms is expecting, for instance, that because you were a Kappa and the grandmother was a Kappa and the aunt was a Kappa, that your daughter is going to be a shoe-in at Kappa. And I'm just using Kappa as an example.
Yeah.
And that goes to the whole expectation thing. You cannot expect that someone is just going to have your daughter or invite your daughter back because of legacy. One, there are too many people going through Rush now. Legacy just doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
But two, the work, you have to do the work. It doesn't matter if you're a quadruple Kappa legacy and your mom is president of Kappa National Alumni Board or whatever. If you show up and you don't show up in an intentional, prepared way and convey what makes you you, then you're not going to get into Kappa.
No.
Doesn't
no.
matter what. It doesn't matter what your history is.
No. And so that would be one thing. Like, truly the reality is the legacy does not matter anymore.
It can't.
It can't. There are too many people.
Right.
The math doesn't math.
The
for
math
that
doesn't
matter.
math. Correct.
The math doesn't math. So if you have someone who's a legacy, number one, just cross that off
Right.
your list, even though you've been thinking about it since you pledged. I mean,
Yes.
I remember I went to Wake Forest. We did not have national sororities at the time. We had local societies, but then when national sororities came on, my society became Kappa. And my roommate said, let's go through the pledge ship so our daughters can be legacies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I'm like, well, I was practicing law at Atlanta at the time. I'm like, I don't really have time to go through Kappa initiation. And I was like, if my daughter is depending on a legacy,
Yeah.
I just think she needs to be doing her own work. So
You're
I do
right.
think-
And that's what I was saying. It's her experience, not yours. And because of the sheer numbers, legacy just doesn't matter. And it's very disappointing for grandparents, mothers, when that happens. And I do get a lot of calls. What do you mean she was cut from my sorority?
Yeah.
And I'm like, we prepared for this. You know, you can't
Right.
just show up and expect that legacy is going to matter, because it just can't.
It just can't. And I do appreciate this in the book, and just in everything that you put out, and in the coaching and the work and the mentorship that you give to the young women going through Rush. You tell the hard truths. Like, you're not sugarcoating
Right.
anything. You are very direct. And with that, I think there comes, a lot of trust that you build, right? You're not trying to people please anybody. You are just telling them, if you want to be in a sorority, then this is the playbook for how
Right.
to get you there. And
you hit the nail on the head. I'm sorry I interrupted you, but you hit the nail on the head. I'm very direct. I don't know how to be anything else. That is me. But I think that's what resonates, because people trust that what I'm telling them comes from a place of, I want you to be successful, but you have to listen to what I'm saying, because that is your easiest path to success.
Yes. All right, now let's talk about working with you and let's talk about being successful. I think one of the great things that you do is you open people's ideas about what success looks like for them in Rush, like taking it from this tiny, expectation of, legacy or whatever, you're just going to do the same thing your grandmother did, to actually teaching these young women life skills of how to begin to decide what you want for yourself.
Yes.
Could you share, like, how does that work in regard to Rush? How does that conversation look?
The conversation between me and the client?
The Rush, yes, and the client. Mm-hmm.
So first, like I said, it's building up trust. But then we do a lot of exercises in, like you said, trying to figure out what you want. And what you think you want is oftentimes not what's right for you. So you might go in with the thought that I want to be whatever, but the real success comes from finding your people, finding where you fit. And I don't care what the letters are on your shirt. If you chase that shiny thing just because it's a shiny thing, and then you're in there and it might not be a fit for you, then you're spending 4 years isolated and miserable also, because it's not your place. They're not your people. So figuring out what it is that you want, figuring out how to express that, how to have these skills that translate to, like you said, life skills, translate being able to communicate what you want, being able to communicate your story. It's all rolled into one thing. And it's that you just need to have the confidence in yourself. And that is what people are attracted to.
Mm-hmm. So, and one thing that I've noticed, like in the women that I work with, who, I do work with some of the young women who've gone through Rush and had these experiences, but more often with their mothers. And what I found is those mothers were never given that opportunity to really make a decision for themselves. Right. Oftentimes it was like, you're going to do this, and then you're going to do that, and you're going to do this. So this, to me, goes back to why you need an expert that we didn't need back in the day, is because of these exact things. Teaching someone how to ask for what they want is often, for young women, a skill that they haven't really developed yet.
And a lot of older women too. It's a skill that is increasingly important, and it's a skill that I see increasingly less. I don't know how to say that, but it's because of social media, because of screen time, because of all the things, those skills seem to be lacking more than they ever have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just the conversation. And I want to talk about that. Like the girls, one of these skill sets that you talk about in the book is the ability to have a conversation with a total stranger, right. Someone that you don't know. And how does that usually go? I remember my dad preparing me for that when I went off to college, but
You're a great dad.
Yeah, he was a great dad. He was like a lawyer. And he said, listen, you're super shy. I was terribly shy. And he said, you need to ask people questions about themselves. People love to talk about themselves. And I wanted to throw up. I remember going through Rush, and that's all I wanted to do was throw up and not have to walk into that room. And I'm sure a lot of young women feel that way.
Yes, it's very hard to do. Like you said, your dad told you that, but we work really hard on communication skills, listening. I don't ever give our clients, okay, these are the questions you're going to be asked. Because what happens if you're expecting to be asked, what did you do this summer? And then they don't ask you, what did you do this summer? You're a deer in headlights. So understanding your story and being able to communicate it, and most importantly, being able to listen to what the other person is saying.
Yeah. So tell us about, in addition to the book, the particular work of It's All Greek to Me. What do you do? How is that structured? If someone were to say, hey, I think, who's listening to this, like, we're going to start with a book, but I think we might need a little additional help as well.
So it's all Greek to me. We already, figured out my why to starting it, but we have mentors who are between the ages of 23 and 30 who were very active in their sororities all over the United States. And they work one-on-one with our clients, unlimited. We don't have tiers, TIERS, because I believe that everything is based on trust. And getting to understand. So our mentors work with our clients on everything you need to do to prepare for Rush. But let's say there is someone like you were really shy, then we work really hard on that skill. There might be somebody who is completely fashion challenged. There are all kinds of facets, but it doesn't matter because we're experts in all of it. And we're doing research all the time of what sororities are actually looking for. And I'm not talking about clothes, but what they're looking for and what's actually happening. So we're able to help them pivot in real time and navigate anything that they would need that comes up, including like going to orientation at your school.
Mm-hmm. And you said you just said something that I think that everybody needs to hear. Y'all are out there actively doing this research.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's what makes you an expert. That's why somebody wants to buy the book. They want to see like, oh, what are sororities looking for?
Right.
What are they looking for?
Right. And I can give you a hint. It's not people who wear a lot of brands. I think TikTok is very entertaining. I don't have time to watch it, but I do think that the Rush Talk is entertaining, but don't get your advice from Rush Talk.
Yeah. And that reminds me of one of the things in the book that you talk about, which is it silence the noise or turn down the noise?
Block out the noise.
Block out the noise.
You're close. You're close.
Yeah, block out. Sorry, the lazy Susan of the brain was going to eventually.
We're going to go on every single thing you could do with noise, and we're going to land on block out.
Okay, so share that concept because I think that's very hard to do, but essential.
It's so essential, and I give examples in the book, as you know. But there's so much going on around you. During Rush and before Rush, you're hearing rumors and you're hearing during Rush, oh my gosh, the girl down the hall got asked back to 13 sororities and I only got asked back to 8. And that kind of stuff will derail you. So what you need to do is put on your blinders, block out everything you can't control. And that's a lot. There are some things you can control before you get there and once you're there, which is how you act and the materials that you submit prior to Rush. But beyond that, anything you can't control, you got to block it out because it will make you a hot freaking mess.
It will absolutely, as you say, derail you because it's everywhere. And we don't know what that means. Someone got asked back to 8 places and you got asked back to 3. Like, those aren't even comparable.
It's not comparable. And the same goes for moms too. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to sit there at the club on a Thursday with a bunch of your friends having wine and listening whose daughters are going through Rush. And then my daughter got asked back to blah, 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 blah. Well, that's one moment in time. I'm not saying she's lying. Sometimes they get so excited that they over-report or under-report, and that is going to derail you mentally, moms. So don't do that. Go dark. If you have to lock yourself in a closet with a bottle of wine, do that. But this is not the time. The comparison game will really actually make you lose your mind.
It will. It will make you lose. And we always talk about that. It's like, it's compare and despair for a reason. Is what psychologists calls it.
Well, I need to write that down. That's good. Yeah. I might take that as mine now. Compare and despair. I'm going to pretend like I made it up.
Because it's true. Every time you compare, you're comparing to make yourself feel better. But the flip side of that coin is that it's going to gut you as well to compare. Yes. And it really does. And I have seen that. And the thing that popped up into my mind for moms who are listening, just follow Trisha's advice on block out the noise. It's not just for the young women going
Absolutely
through
not. Yes. And I do talk about this in my book, and you're hearing it here first, people. The assembling your support squad is important for your daughter and for you. And so your daughter should have people on speed dial who are not going through rush, friends going through rush, and who know her value before she goes into rush, so they can remind her of that when things inevitable. And same thing with the mom. Have a support squad in place of people who know you, know your daughter, love you, love your daughter, and whose children are not going through rush. And so then when you are starting to spiral, which happens a whole lot, you can reach out to them. They're your support squad, not the people whose daughters are going through rush.
I think that's brilliant. I mean, truly.
Well, I think, Tara, what you might want to realize is that I am brilliant.
I've already realized it.
I'm just kidding.
I'm just like, want everybody to know.
I'm brilliant and I'm never wrong. Those are the two things those should be your takeaways from today. I am brilliant and I am never wrong.
No, and do not go through rush without checking out Trisha and following every piece of advice she has, because that is how you will get through rush. And I think part of that is, when I think about it, is and then planning for some worst case scenarios, like actually thinking through, okay, what happens if you're in that room? What happens? And if the daughter isn't going to do this, then I think this is the job of a mother. Go to that place and have a worst case scenario plan. What happens in that? And what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I have a whole chapter called Rejection is Redirection. And then there's something I call Falling in Love with Plan B. Because if your worst case scenario during rush happens, then you're like, whoa, what do I do? So you have to prepare for that too, because you never know. So you may have your very best friend from camp who swears you're going to be in her sorority, and she wants you in her sorority, and she's going to fight for you. But then let's say her sorority sister, Tara, has a friend from camp that she's sworn that she's going to help her get into the sorority. And then Tara has 7 more people that went to that same camp that she can rally. So then where does that leave the person? It doesn't mean anything about you. It just means that it can very well happen that it's not that you can't trust them. It's just, you two are not the only two in this process. So it's very, very smart to have a plan B, or how you're going to operate when and if the worst case, meaning in rush scenarios, happen to you.
Yeah. And that becomes a life skill, because I don't know of anybody who gets through life unscathed without having felt and experienced rejection on multiple levels during multiple seasons of life, and having that plan and that skill set of being able to fall in love with Plan B.
Yes.
I mean, that's a life
Agreed.
lesson there. And hopefully
I think all of this is life lessons. I feel like, so the head of school at Lovett read my book, and at Lovett's school in Atlanta, if y'all don't know. And she read my book and she said, I wish I'd had this book, because it would have given me these skills, but rush would have met me where I am. Meaning, like, so they're going to take it because they want to reach this goal of being in a sorority, take the advice. But what they're really getting is skills that will help them throughout their lives.
I'm so glad you brought up that. I screenshot what she said, and it was on your Instagram. So Meredith Cole, the headmistress at the Lovett School, This book is a treasure, rush or no rush. Every young woman should have it, read it, and then read it again. I wish the 18-year-old version of myself would have had access to it, would have helped me process and perhaps avoid a lot of struggle, way beyond rush. But I would have read it because the rush challenge would have met me where I was. Your ability to translate powerful advice through the portal of rush will get it read and digested in a meaningful manner. It's so good, Trisha. Your book is going to make for millions of competent young women.
Yes, I love that. I love that she understands that. I love that she got it, and she works with this age, all the time.
Yeah, all the time. All right, so let me ask you a couple of other questions that I think. So we've talked about the hard parts of it, why would somebody want to go through rush if it's this hard and potentially heartbreaking?
Being in a sorority is unlike anything you can get anywhere else. You have a place, you have your people, you are making connections, you're getting skills that will translate to getting jobs. And I was on a TV show once and I said that, and I believe it, and I've heard it. I've had so many people reach out to me and say, are any of your clients looking for a job? Or any of your mentors looking for a job? Because once you have been involved in managing a bunch of young women and helping them navigate college and all the things, you could run a company. So, and employers know that. So it goes beyond community, but it goes to connections. It goes to future opportunities. And there's an alumni community too. It's just a great thing.
It's so good. Well, and again, I think about, you mentioned that, we touched on your why for writing this book. And in touching on the preparation and intentionality of preparing for rush, that I think that touches upon the bigger why, what you just said of being part of why do you want to go through rush? It's for that bigger reason, not just to be part of the popular, group or have a certain set of letters on my chest. And that if they can do the work that you help them do, which is figuring out what that bigger why is for themselves and that bigger reason. And then that seems to me like that helps with all the things of getting by the legacy stuff, getting by, looking at all the sororities, not just limiting yourself to one or two, because if the bigger why is, I'm looking for a sisterhood, I'm looking for leadership experience, I'm looking for...
that's the word I was looking for, leadership. I was stumbling all over. So the thing when you're leading people and you're like leadership. Okay, yeah.
Leadership.
Oh my gosh. But yes, leadership. That's what I was trying to say. Tara's like, leadership.
Leadership. Well, you helped me on block. So we're just a couple of midlife women.
Just a couple of people with missing some brain cells. At least I am. Okay.
At 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock on a Wednesday. Where's the wine? It's always
I just talked to a friend of mine before I got on this podcast, and she said, I had the worst day yesterday, and I told someone at least it's Friday. and she was like, oh, this is going to be bad when I tell her it's actually Tuesday.
It's actually Tuesday.
So, yeah, leadership. Leadership skills. That's what you get when you're in a sorority. Or you could ramble on about something that sounds like it.
Oh my gosh. Well, and it's fun too. And it's fun to have people, and you talk about this in your book too, that when you're going through tough times in your life, how those sorority sisters were the ones that reached out to you to buoy you during those times. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really special thing.
Yeah, it is.
All of it.
Well, I was just going to share one of the things that I took away, but not having any daughters and just having boys, and understanding like that rejection and all of those things as a mother of a child. But when my middle son Brennan was going through leukemia treatment, and I had already started working with a life coach myself, and I was younger then, but a lawyer. And I remembered the greatest gift that I learned that I could give him was not seeing him as a victim of the circumstances that he was in, not being a victim of leukemia. And every time, I started to see him through relapses and stuff as just this victim of cancer, he started to slump. Like I could physically see the responsiveness that he had to me. And then I had to actively remind myself that for whatever reason, as unfair and unjust as this might seem, he is still the hero of his own journey. And he would kind of perk up. It was really interesting to me to see that difference. And I was wondering with you, do you see that type of relationship with daughters and mothers, or do you see that play out at all through your work and how you get to know them?
Absolutely. And that's very powerful. I was following along Brennan's journey years ago. But yes, I see that mothers and daughters, that's a relationship that, one, I don't have, but two, it's a lot. It's very layered, not a lot. It's very layered. It's very layered, and it is really a beautiful thing to see. And one of my favorite stories is we had a client came to us, they hired us. The daughter was preparing for Rush, and through the preparation process, and her mom was they were a big Greek life family. And the mom was really big in her sorority, and the daughter, through preparing for Rush with us, decided she didn't want to go through Rush. And that was one of the biggest wins for me, which is kind of weird considering the fact that I'm a Rush consultant, that it's one of my biggest wins. But seeing her gain the confidence to make that decision for herself, and then seeing her mom said to me, I would have never picked this, but seeing how my daughter has made this choice for herself is really inspiring. And so they were happy about it. Took a little bit just for them to wrap their brains around it, but I feel like it's really beautiful when they reach that understanding of how their relationship is going to be going forward, and how that might differ from how it was in growing up in high school.
I think that is the perfect place to end our interview today, because I love that story, and I'm so glad that you shared it with me. And I hope that that's why people need to be buying this book, giving it to all of your friends again.
And all their friends and gas station attendants really need it. People on airplanes.
Right? Like we're going to be like Oprah with this book, passing it out on the street.
Oh, wait, that's not a bad idea.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yes. And I know Reese needs to add it to her book club list, all the people. But I think that at the end of the day, with what you can get from reading this book, following Trisha on Instagram and her company, and perhaps working with them, is that type of an independent young woman giving your daughter the gift of knowing who she is at that age in life. I can't even imagine. I think I was in therapy and coaching until I was 50, trying to get to that point.
Yeah. So no, I thank you, and I thank you for seeing that, and that is certainly my intention.
Well, tell everybody where they can buy the book.
You can buy the book anywhere that you get books. Amazon, Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, Target, all the places. And you can find me at Rush with Confidence on Instagram, and my website, shocker, TrishaAddicks.com. And also my company website is itsallgreektome.org, not com, because if you go to com, you're going to get Greek food, which is not a bad thing.
Interesting. Good to know. Well, I will make sure we put all of these things in the show notes. And I just want to say thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I love your energy. I think we should be best friends. And
I do too. We're going to be best friends.
And it was fun to be here, but also super. I love it when somebody gets me and understands where my heart is, because that's really important to me. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate it. And a whole nother episode is let's talk about how you started a business in 2017 and wrote a book at the age of
58. Well, I started writing the book 3 years ago when I was in that Bama Rush documentary. I paused it and I looked at my husband and I was like, there's my book. Because that's what I needed to do, was write a book. So it's been a long journey, but it's been very meaningful, and I've loved 99% of it.
That's a lot. So
it's a big percentage.
It is. Well, thanks everybody for listening, and I look forward to talking to y'all again.
I ain't done living the life I'm meant to lead, and I ain't done loving the ones who cared for me. The hope and the strength and the love and the smiles and the laughter of friends and family. Add it up, you'll find no limit to the possibilities. The left and the right and some faith in the fight, and your courage is all you